We are live and hello everyone. Welcome to today's expert session number 31. And I'm really excited about this one. Joining us today, Peter Birkholm-Busch. Then you correct me after Peter. He's the software engineer in digital products at Carlsberg. Peter's experience in AI adoption goes beyond just technology. It's about how to integrate AI solutions that actually drive real business value. So today we'll be diving into the crucial role of the AI engineer, someone who's not only building but transforming how businesses use AI. Peter will help us understand how these engineers evaluate, integrate, and scale AI technologies, delivering both innovation and efficiency. He will also share his real world insights, like, for example, how GitHub Copilot has had a measurable impact at Carlsberg. A quick thanks to our sponsor Air Meat for making this session possible. And basically, the topics that we'll be exploring today is the role of AI engineers, practical AI integration, balancing efficiency and innovation in real world applications. So, Peter, welcome. The first question, as usual, it's the big picture. How did we get here?
Question. Uh, I fell on my bike when I was 14, broke my jaw, couldn't go to school for 3 months, and I had to figure out what to do. So I got a Commodore 64 from my parents to kill time, and the rest is history, so to speak. Um, I've been uh, consumed by software one way or the other ever since. Uh, and I've worked in software from, I don't know, professionally since 90, probably late 80s, early 90s. I've done everything, public, private, um, pharma, military, online, not online, embedded, you name it. I probably coded something somewhere. Um, 2000s came around, the role of architect evolved, and I slid into that, and I started managing larger and larger projects, and I kind of floated into the gray area between technology and business. Spent some time there, and for the past many years, I've been leading software engineering teams of various sizes. Right now, I'm the director of software engineering in Carlsberg in an area called growth products. I have a team of about 75 people. Most of them are in Lisbon. Um, and we do e-commerce stuff for Carlsberg. That's sort of the fly-in. And I'm an engineer, so you can trust me.
I trust you. I guess. I guess I trust you, Peter. So, Peter, what I think where I'd like to start this conversation is there's a big hype around AI. There's a big hype around AI. I mean, I was first struck with the whole AI hype. I think around 2023 somewhere with of course, ChatGPT. Then I started playing around with ChatGPT, and to be honest, I cannot live without it anymore. And you know, it's odd, but it has just changed how I create content, how I you know how I produce stuff. I've been playing also, toying around with Perplexity. Really like it. It kind of like gives you the news of the day, and on top of that, you can also do what ChatGPT does. So I think it's very powerful what Perplexity does. Maybe from a coding perspective, also can be powerful. But before we get there, I'd like to understand how do we talk about AI and its practicalities. I like to take your views on what's changed from when you graduated as a software engineer, if we can say you were a software engineer, till today. What's the real evolution there? What's the what's the real change?
I think the boring short answer is nothing really changed. Um, but 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 when I say nothing, I mean everything. So software engineering or building any kind of solution based on software has evolved enormously since I started doing it professionally. Um, and it's a never-ending race to always learn and to always understand how a new thing is something that you can utilize to your advantage. Because if you're better at using new stuff than the other ones, then you are more attractive, and then it's easier for you to get a job and so forth. But also, you are better at creating value for your employer or your customer. So for me, which is what something I love about my job, is that it's a never-ending race to learn. Um, that works really well for me. I think it's sort of where we are now. I mean, many years ago, you would when you were young, you would get some sort of an education, and then you would apply those skills that you learn every day for the rest of your life. I think those days are totally gone. I can't think of a single craft, or very few anyway, that will not change over the next whatever years to come. Uh, Software engineering is the field that has changed enormously. Yes, now we have Gen AI helping us to code, and that's a big change. But I think some of the changes that I've gone through, from embedded to server side to web to mobiles to, and then everything, and it keeps going around in circles, has been just as impactful as Gen AI.
Mhm.
I don't know. Things change all the time.
They definitely do, but so there's a software in everything, I guess,
Yeah.
nowadays, right?
Yes.
There's there's a an OS, an operating system in everything we do. So let's explore that, and let's talk about the role of the software engineer in really being a bridge between, because that's the tweak I did. When I first asked ChatGPT, how should I call this topic today? It was
Yeah.
about tech and business, and then I said, but there's also society. There is a software in everything we do nowadays, right?
Yes.
And because there's a software, I think there's so much vulnerability as well. I was looking at cybersecurity is a topic that I'm super interested, because I think the more software we have, the more digital crimes we're going to have, and like, so there's a whole new world, right, that is emerging. So let's talk about the role of software engineers in tech, business, and society, and how do they bridge that gap? More like from a philosophical standpoint, perspective, but also practical.
Hmm. Okay. And now over to me. Okay. That's a big one. Um, let's attack the security part of it first, I think. Um, it's an area where we in Carlsberg actually use AI quite a bit, in order to get ahead of the curve of security vulnerabilities, where we obviously scan our code for security vulnerabilities, both in the code that we write ourselves, the code that we use from other software libraries, and then we use Copilot to help us fix security vulnerabilities if there are any, so that when we deploy code, we at least know that at the time of writing, it was free of known security vulnerabilities. And that makes our lives a lot easier. And we can go to sleep at night thinking that, yep, what we deployed at least did not have any security vulnerabilities. Um, I think software in the society is, I can't remember who it was that software is eating the world. Maybe it was Bill Gates, or maybe it was Steve Jobs. I can't remember. But it certainly is eating the world. Like you said, there is software in everything, and in a lot of cases, it's you tend to focus on the hardware. I mean, the iPhone, Uh, but it's really the software that makes it work. It's the software that makes it magical. Um, so I think those companies, and Apple clearly are a master of doing that, where you can merge software and hardware in a way so that, it's almost imperceptible where one starts and one end. I think those are magical experiences, and I really love those. And then there are the ones where, I don't know, go to any government website and you're like, what is going on here? Was there no human that ever tested this user interface? How do I do something? Um, so it's interesting how software is creeping into everywhere in all parts of our lives. And in some cases, I think it's awesome, and in some cases, it's horrible. Um, every company today now have self-serve everything. You have to do your own expenses, do your own everything. And I think in many, many, many cases, there is probably not a very good business model uh, behind many of those initiatives, but it's possible through software. So let's do it. So sometimes maybe it's time to stop and think.
And Peter, so since there's a software and everything, what's the I had a question here, and it's my clue, but what's the role of the AI engineer today? And I mean, how do you see that companies, for example, you're working for a big one, but then you also have experience in logistics and a host of sectors, let's put it this way, where you developed scalable software. Something went wrong here. Sorry. A scalable software solution. So, why is it critical for companies to adopt AI, and what's the role of then the AI engineer in the AI adoption in companies today?
I think it's a question with many levels of that we can unpack. So um, clearly, the field of artificial intelligence, which includes Gen AI and machine learning and a lot of other applications of how you can use math to solve problems, um, is currently evolving at a rapid pace. And companies are finding areas where, especially Gen AI, is great at accelerating business. And I think commerce is one of those areas where, um, especially around, product recommendations, fixing product descriptions, a lot of those problem sets around getting people to buy more. I think Gen AI is proving to be an excellent tool. You mentioned that you don't know how to write anymore, so you can use Gen AI to write marketing campaigns and emails, and you can have them do chatbots and everything. I think those are excellent examples of how you can use AI to advance your business. But I think also there's a bit of a blockchain movement going around Gen AI. I mean, we're now, going down the trough of disillusionment on the Gartner Magic cycle um, with regards to AI and Gen AI. So I think it needs to find sort of what's the next thing? How do we really apply AI and Gen AI, and how do we benefit from it? And because it's been a technology that's been moving so quickly, um, having people, I call them AI engineers, so developers really, who understands how to create solutions is crucial for a company wanting to leverage AI. But problem number one is really, where should we apply AI? What business problems do we have where we can effectively apply AI? And when I say AI again, it's any of the AIs. How can we effectively apply AI to solve this problem? Is this a business case where it makes sense? Is this something that we should invest in? And then I think there's some categories of AI solutions where you can either pick stuff off the shelf, and that's probably not going to give you the best return on investment, but also you have uh, a very low uh, threshold to get on board with it. And then maybe there's something where you add on stuff of that. You do your own configuration of some thoughts, and there's a bunch of examples of that where companies internally create Gen AI solutions that, what's the menu for the cafeteria this week and stuff like that. I think those solutions are in danger of always being overtaken by the next version of the Copilot. We've seen Microsoft Copilot, for instance, for businesses evolve tremendously over the past year. So all the ones that we did at Carlsberg, anyway, the internal proof of concepts have now been overtaken by what Copilot does out of the box, which kind of proves my point that you have to be careful what you choose. And then there are the custom solutions where you have to have AI engineers because you have to implement something. You're building something which doesn't exist. And that requires people, it requires knowledge, it requires investment, and it requires the right business problem. And I think we're still trying to understand what are the best business problems to apply AI to, other than the ones that we've already solved or found out that it works for.
I mean, there are so many things that you mentioned here, and as we speak, it's really funny because whenever I do content, I actually record interviews like this. I realize how I learn, and for me, it's very important to take note of the big topics so I can follow what you're saying, and then ask the next question. I prefer like to do it like this. And you mentioned a few interesting things. So AI and Gen AI is the first thing that I like to perhaps ask a definition. From if you could just go and define that in a simple way for people like me who are I'm curious, I'm trying to learn and catch up. But if you could just explain for I have two daughters, like how would you explain for for kids, so they understand the difference of AI and Gen AI?
Question. So AI, I think, is the entire field of artificial intelligence, which is, how can we apply computer science to solve problems where we normally would say it requires human intelligence? And in the past, it's been, like chess computers, uh, and stuff like that, where you're playing against an artificial intelligence that can beat you. And we've seen that with chess computers. We've seen that with Go, DeepMind, which now won the Nobel Prize, by the way. But AI, the field of AI is then, it has sub areas. Um, for a long time, machine learning has been a part of artificial intelligence, but machine learning is really just how can we do statistical analysis on a large data set so that we can create an API that will answer questions based on the knowledge in the statistical material as if it knows what it's talking about. It's really just math. I mean, there's hardly any artificial intelligence in it. And then I guess there's the latest craze, which is Gen AI or generative AI, again, which is also just a statistical model that has actually been spoon-fed with a lot of text from the internet, and it's then created an idea of if you say this word, then what is the most likely next word that you would say, and it's going to output that. Of course, it's a little bit more advanced than that, but basically that's what it does. And then someone said vectors before, and they use 3D vector spaces to understand which words are close to each other and mean the same thing. So Gen AI is basically just using AI to generate content. And then I guess the latest thing that we're now discussing with Gen AI is its ability to reason, or its limited ability to reason, and its very limited ability to apply logic. So I don't think the current version of Gen AI will be the one that solves problems for humanity. We'll have to wait for the next or the next or the next version. But it's I have anxiety attacks all the time if I miss a news in the Gen AI or AI space.
Are you optimistic, Peter? When we hear Elon Musk, and I find the guy fascinating, but when we hear Elon Musk talking about AI, he has a different view. So I'm curious about your views on AI, artificial intelligence, and how that is going to impact jobs. And what's your take? That honestly, if
Right.
you
Yeah. Well, I think um, everyone is going to be affected by artificial intelligence somehow. And those who are able to use it to augment their existing work or their skill set. So I can use Gen AI to become a faster, better, more productive programmer. Then that makes me more desirable to hire. So it supercharges me as a human. I think all people who are able to use Gen AI to their advantage definitely should do so, and find out how to do it as fast as possible. Because at work, I mean, there's no, you don't get applauses for second place at work. You might as well Gen AI the hell out of it and then learn how to use it to your advantage. I mean, I don't think there's any cheating in that. Um, Future outlook, I think is awesome. I think technology is awesome. Are there issues around Gen AI and security and safety and all of that? Yes, there is, but so is there with so many other things. Um, and um, I'm torn like the rest probably between where in the US you have total free reign and you can do almost anything you want within reason or certain limits anyway. And then in typical European style, it's like, yeah, no, we know better. We have longer history. We have better taste or something. It's like we need to limit this thing and have rules and regulations around it. And oh, we have zero AI companies, but we're going to regulate it anyway. That feels kind of weird. Um, so I'm sure the solution is in there
Mhm.
somewhere.
Mhm.
I don't know where. I do know that there are going to be countries or areas of influence where they're not going to be too bothered about limitations and making sure that it's ethical or moral or something. So um if we need to find out how to solve that problem. If you look at, for instance, research into Gen AI and publications into Gen AI, I think it's China is like factor of 10. I can't remember the number in number of models and publications on Gen AI as compared to the rest of the world. US just happens to have some of the companies that are being invested in order to build these things. So that's the stuff you hear about. But I'm sure there is an equal amount of stuff going on inside China that we don't hear about and is being funded in ways that we don't know about. So at
Mhm.
least scientific publications seem to point in that direction.
I think it's so interesting what you're saying because how are you going to regulate something that you don't even know what you're regulating exactly, right? So, what I find it fascinating about this exchange that we have, especially because we are so many internationals in our group, is when you have an international person like we just had Renee, we have Fred here, everyone here has an international element. They're more open, right? Yourself as well, right, Peter? You work with people in Portugal. We've been working across cultures, and so myself being a Brazilian in Denmark now, and sometimes working with Americans or and let's say Danes and Americans. I- in America, everything is 10x exaggerated. Oh, fantastic! But they have another mindset to Europeans, and I like that. You know, here sometimes I really like what you said. It's like you're putting a limit, and I think it's important to put limits, but also to have some freedom to try things. And then you see, like things went wrong, and then you create the regulations accordingly, right? Because crime respects nobody. When you look at cybercrime, they don't care about the regulations. They always find a back door. They always find the fourth or fifth door that they can exploit, right? So regulation, and when it comes to AI, and I think with Renee we spoke about this a while ago. It's not that I'm against regulation, but I think regulation should follow. That's not maybe the best word, but common sense. You're progressing, shit happens, and then you create some stuff that according to that, and then it's an evolving thing, right? It's not something fixed that I don't know.
No, I totally agree. I can't figure out, you know, how explosively dangerous is this at the end of the day? I mean, so for instance, you can trick the OpenAI and the other models into, if you're clever about it, into helping you, build bombs and stuff, um, and break into cars. And then you go, oh no, it's immoral to have a large language model help people figure out how to do that stuff, and we should stop them from being able to do that. And I kind of maybe agree, but we also have laws that says you cannot blow up people with bombs. And technology helps people to find how to build bombs anyway. So I'm yes, we should not have systems that makes it easier for people to build bombs. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm just saying we have laws in place that says you cannot bomb people, but I don't know where the slider is at. I don't know. I'm sure we will know in 5 years or 10 years, or some event will teach us. Um, but right now I don't know. Yes, in the past we've used like asbestos came out of space technology. It's awesome. We can use it for everything. Just don't stick it on frying pans and in buildings because it kills people. And we're dealing with that now. There's like so so many houses in Denmark that are being torn down because they have asbestos in the roofs or in the walls. Um, and that's stuff that we know now. But we can't know everything, beforehand. So I don't know. I'm really torn. I don't have the answer. I'm glad I'm not a politician, so I don't have to come up with legislation in this
Mhm.
area. Um, I'm hoping some people are far more insightful around these things than I am, but um, I'm sad that we don't have companies in Europe that does large language models. I think it would be interesting to have sort of a counterpart to the stuff that's going on in the US and the stuff that's going on in Asia, but it costs millions and millions and millions of any currency you can imagine to train these models and get the hardware that you can train them on. So it's an area that's influenced by big IT money. Hey, Renee.
Hey, I was just I just wanted to comment. I was kind of at a different type of conference for me last week. I was at a Bitcoin conference in Switzerland, and there was a
Oh,
lot of discussions around how do you regulate the internet? How do you regulate freedom of speech? Things like Telegram. All of this. When you look at like Bitcoin and crypto and things like that, and just this idea of like international regulation and how you like take the instance of Telegram, for instance. There's certain things that like where do you draw the line when you go in between countries, for instance, right? So terrorism in and is should be illegal everywhere, right? Where and then but things like selling guns, depending on what country you're in, is it legal or not? Selling marijuana legal or not, depending on what country you are. Certain types of speech, certain types of like if you're LGBTQ in certain countries, it's illegal, so it's like, where do you draw these lines? There's no international regulator of these types of things. And it's like, we almost need to have, like, instead of getting too stuck on all these little things, it's like, can we all agree on the really bad things, right? Can we all agree on things like working together and plotting terrorism is bad no matter what country you're in, but we can't seem to get past these little differences. And I think we're relying on like all these different countries, and then they change with the politics, right? I mean, the US is not going to be doing any regulation anytime soon now. Let's face that, right? For the next 4 years. So AI is probably not going to get regulated in the US. And then you have different, regulations by country when actually these technologies are global, right? So I think it does get more complicated. And I unfortunately don't really know what the solution is, because I don't think there's a strong international body to be able to regulate them. But I do think it provides a lot of challenges. And to your point, like, I don't want to see people regulating everything, but there are some things that I think everyone can agree are like not great, and technology does enable that.
yeah, I agree. Yes, terrorism is forbidden.
Yeah.
At least
But
in
but it depends. But in some ways it's like, it depends. I mean, Telegram was a good example of that, right? It took France kind
Yeah,
of stepping in to get involved with it, but for the most part, it's not always clear.
no. Yeah, and I don't have to solve that. yes, we have end-to-end encryption on these platforms, and they are apparently, in fact, end-to-end encrypted. So it's really hard to get in the
Yeah.
middle and intercept those messages and find out what people are talking about. Um, but that's also that's kind of the technology that they sell, right? So it probably in 99.99% of the use cases, it's totally benign and nothing fishy is going on.
Totally.
And then
Totally.
there's always, people who are using it for bad, and that's everywhere. And then I think we
Yeah.
just have to rely on that we have laws in place in those countries, at least where we live, or the ones that we represent right now, where we say those bad things are illegal. If you do them anyway, then we will find you and throw you away. Um, I agree. I don't think hunting down end-to-end encryption platforms is necessarily what solves it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I don't know.
I
It'll be
don't have an
interesting.
answer.
I don't either. Just an interesting thought process, especially with AI, as things go so quickly. And I think to your point, like people don't really even know what it's capable of. I think when you get down to it, and it's like where you draw that line. So it'll be interesting to see
Yeah,
how it changes.
but
But I
I
just
think I think there's something even more interesting than Gen AI right now, and that's quantum computing, because soon, I mean, 5 years ago they said it would be here in 5 years, and 5 years has passed and it's not here, so maybe it'll be here in another 5 years. Who knows? But I think most people are in agreement that the encryption that we use right now will be broken in minutes by quantum computing in the future. So I'm hearing now anyway, that there are some actors who are now recording everything, sticking it on hard
Mm.
drives, because they can't decrypt it now, but they will be able to in 5 years or in 10 years. And maybe some secrets are so secret and are so impactful on society, military, I don't know, that they will be worthwhile cracking in 10 years. So it's from like a government point of view, it's worth the cost of recording everything on the internet, sticking it on a very large USB drive, and then applying future tech in 10 years to somehow figure out what's important in there and then use it for either bad things or good things. I don't know. So I think I've been I'm 54 years old, and I grew up in the 80s. And my parents grew up in the 50s and in the 60s, and it was always, oh, it's the atomic age and the space age, and the world changed, and they were so fortunate to be around. I feel like the age I'm living in, man, uh, I guess the example of the Berlin Wall falling these days is kind of a bad example, but that had a huge impact on my life. And then I went on to the internet and I guess iPod, iPhone, cloud computing, now Gen AI. I can't wait for the next thing to roll around. So I feel like we're living in very exciting, very interesting, lucky times, at least for me. And then there's all the world crap that's going on, which is kind of like also,
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I'm equally excited and equally terrified these days about what goes on.
Agree. Yeah. It's every once in a while you feel like it is kind of like a real world of the Matrix.
Totally. 54 is the
Excellent.
new 30. Thank you, Carlos.
It is. It is. I'm turning 40 next year, so I have to believe that. Turning 20
Oh,
actually, right?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I used hexadecimal to express my age for a long time, and then I gave up because it just became stupid.
But you're looking good, Peter. So don't
Thank
worry,
you.
man. You're looking really good. Looking young and sharp, cool, calm, and collected, as a friend used to tell me. The other thing I'd like to ask you then, Peter, is like we had this philosophical discussion, and I think they are super interesting. But in your articles, I've been reading a bit your blog posts. By the way, everyone, Peter has a really cool blog. He likes writing, and we'll make sure we share that on YouTube as well, Peter.
Oh, cool.
Afterward, of course. You talk about the let's say the disconnect. So companies they want someone qualified for the job, but there's not, let's say, an ecosystem that provides the qualification today, so software engineers can be on on par, or what people are asking them to accomplish, right? So where do we see that? And that's why I think communities is so important. So let's say OpenAI and these companies, they should also, and probably they're doing it, they should be creating an ecosystem around them, right? Microsoft probably is educating people and so on, but it takes time for us to have people ready to do the job, right? So in terms of qualification, where do we stand, and what do you think it's the you know software engineers, what type of qualifications they should be focusing on today, so they're ready for the job market? And I have a ton of considerations also in terms of I think it's important to go to university, but the universities, they should be closer to the job market somehow, because what happens is, it's my opinion, when you get to the job market, you're not ready. So we can have a philosophical discussion about the role of universities in education, but I think what happens is that you end up being educated on the job nowadays, right? So and yeah, I
A
spoke a
lot to
lot.
no,
A
a
lot.
lot to unpack it. No, it's cool. So I have a master's in computer science. And to get to that, I went through a lot of math, um, and a lot of understanding logic and understanding how programming languages work and understand how algorithms and data models and how you model stuff. Um, and I think that gave me a platform to not only learn how to learn, but I think I see that with other people who have the same um background, that it's kind of easier to you have more like shelving, you have like more baggage, more gears, I don't know, so it's easier to sometimes understand new stuff because oh, that's the same as that, and then I can relate to it in an easier way. So um, I've always never been hung up on programming languages or different types of technology, because when I see a programming language, for me, it's just an abstraction onto logic that then becomes math. So that, for me, I think the most important thing is the ability to learn and the willingness to learn. And then the more education you have behind you, the more you are trained in learning stuff. And I think that is something that sets great software developers or engineers or any kind of people in technical skills areas, I think, apart, is their ability to absorb new information and then apply it and then go to the next thing. So I think that is extremely important in the future. And for companies, it's extremely important to make sure that people have time to learn. And if you're always doing your current job 100% of the time, you will never have time to learn. Nor will the company have time to do innovation, but that's besides the point. So I think it's important for everyone in any job role, really, to make sure that there is headroom to learn and evolve. And if there isn't, then you run the risk of, I don't know, going stale, maybe. You become you end up being, a COBOL programmer, and we're running out of use of COBOL programmers. So you need to evolve, man. You need to keep learning.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. We have now Hawan. He's joining us on stage. That's one of the things that we do for our members, which I think it's pretty cool, to be perfectly honest. Hawan, welcome.
There he is.
I'm on.
Yep, you're on. Hey, man.
Hey, Peter. Such a great session. So you are so direct. So I really like the way you talk. You express your thoughts. And of course you are an engineer, so we can trust you. What I would like to talk with you, man, is I'm also passionate about AI. We apply AI here I believe we started in 2017, and of course there are a lot of development since then. But what I feel sometimes, and this is not a tricky question, but what I feel sometimes, it's like, 2 years ago about the metaverse, there
Mhm.
are a lot of speculations, and now no one is talking about. Uh, of course, I feel like AI is different because we can have some really practical, and we are seeing. But don't you feel that sometimes AI is the big thing, and maybe next year in the NRF they will announce another thing, and then 2025 we will be talking about another thing and not AI. How do you feel about that?
I think there's always going to be the next thing. However, I strongly believe that if you look back over the past 30 years or so, there are certain types of technologies that have come out which have done, you know, have had such a huge impact on the technology at a larger scale that you can say, there is like the before and after iPhone,
Yep.
uh, I don't know, presentation or whatever. I think cloud computing, which has become ubiquitous. And today, 20 years ago, it was like, what the hell is this? And no, I don't trust a server in the cloud. Today, you'd be crazy to put a system in the basement, um, unless for extreme regulatory requirements. And I think Gen AI is the same thing. But like I said earlier, I think we need the next or the next or the next or the next version of Gen AI or whatever it'll become, um, for it to truly be, something where we look back and say, oh, that was the age of AI. But I don't know about AR and VR and the metaverse. Yeah, it kind of went away, but I think, can you imagine being the person that did like that? Oh, here's the new goggles, and then week after OpenAI announced ChatGPT. I mean, any business would have gone. Um, so maybe that happened to it. I don't know. I mean, Apple came out with the, what do they call, the Apple goggles, whatever. Is that almost 2 years ago by now? And they're still $30,000 or whatever. No, not $3,000, I guess.
Yep.
Um, I don't know if anyone's using them. I mean, I really want a pair. I have no idea what to use them for. Um, so I think augmented reality and virtual reality are technologies that are awesome, but they're kind of like Gen AI right now. Right? It's like Bitcoin, right? It's or not Bitcoin. It's like blockchain. It's a technology sort of looking for a problem that it can solve, and I think Gen AI has solved a few problems awesomely. Um, and it's the same thing with everything else. It needs to land somewhere, and then we go, oh, so that's where it actually makes sense to use it. Um, for Gen AI, all along, for me, it's been not writing; it's been using it as an agent. I've
Hmm.
written about this ages ago, where I think that if you can have agents which are an instance of LLM, if you have like a problem where it's like, think of, I don't know, like case management in anywhere, where you take a problem expressed on an application or a piece of paper, and then you do something, 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 and then each of the things that you do is there's an input and an output, and the output needs to have some sort of subjective measurement that happens, that decides whether it goes that way or that way. I think LLMs are awesome at doing that. um, and then if you can do like case management, then in parallel and then at scale, like, so like, building permit applications, can't we do those automatically, so it takes 10 seconds to get a building permit? um I think those are areas where Gen AI will take off and solve a lot of problems. um but it's still not in areas of math and logics. So yeah, let's see. I still
Yeah.
want a pair of Apple Vision goggles.
I totally agree with
Sorry.
you because there are a lot of buzz, and when we had the metaverse bubble, there are a lot of startups that were founded that said in a few years no one will go out, everyone will stay at home and using goggles, and there are a lot of buzz about that. And nowadays we're not talking about that. I believe that all quite the same will happen with the Gen AI and AI in general, because of course it's a great technology, but as you said, we have to wait where it will make more sense, because now we have a lot of startups that say that they are creating AI, but sometimes they are not. They are just making programming. So then that's create a lot of a big bubble. So I like to wait to see how things will come down and then make more sense. And probably in a few years, we will be talking with AI like we talk about internet. We don't discuss if internet makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but maybe
I,
in the past was something that people were discussing. Will be this, will be good, will be not. Now it's just part of our lives. So probably in 5 or 10 years, AI will be just part of our lives.
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I use it. I use Gen AI all the time, um, both for writing and for coding and for doing my work in general, and also for doing, you know, the other day I was like, okay, let's do an apple pie because I have apples in my yard and I can't be bothered to search for Google for an apple pie. So I'm like, ChatGPT, what's the best practice recipe for a US apple pie? And boom, you got it. And then I'm like, I don't have 10 apples, I only have 7. Rescale the recipe for 7 apples. Boom, there you go. And I made apple pie. That's awesome.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
but on that note, so we went from an economy, let's put it this way, where you would ask Google, right?
Mm,
And then you would have a certain result. And today you're going from an economy where you ask anything, like literally, and sometimes it can be a little biased. I've seen it and I tested and I, and polite, too polite, but you get the answer, and it's more like a paradigm shift that we are living nowadays. I don't go to Google anymore. I mean, I go, but it's kind of like rare in my day to day, you know.
yeah,
And
I
uh, I
I agree.
sorry, but I go to Google, like I start. That's a day in the life of Carlos. Okay, I I log on and Google, and then I'm like, okay, I have to go to Web Summit, for example. That's I'm checking an address and something like that. But I need to create content. There's no Googling anymore. There's no, I don't waste my time there anymore because it's giving me biased results. On maybe ChatGPT or Perplexity is also giving me biased results, but it's kind of learning how I like it, And there's something even more interesting because there's a memory feature. And the other day I asked ChatGPT because I like using David Ogilvy style, like he was a copywriter, and some other people like impersonate David Ogilvy and use my style and blah blah blah, and it knows. So it's this is something new, man. You know, sorry, Peter. So we changed paradigm here, right? It's like you were going to something new. Now this is a new level. This is a completely new level. And when I talked to my dad, now the other day I was showing him how ChatGPT worked, and he was like, "Holy shit!" It's like different. It's
Yeah.
yeah. Over to you. Sorry.
No, I don't. I totally agree. It's mind blowing. And yeah, I use if I'm after any kind of like public knowledge, static type knowledge, I ask ChatGPT because most of the time it knows. Um, I always ask it for references. So if it's, and I have that in my custom instructions, if it's giving, if it's stating something, then I want to know if it's a statement of fact or whether it's hallucinating, because it still does that. But if I'm searching for something which is like, current affairs news, then I still go to Google. Now there's the ChatGPT search. um, I think we're on to a whole new, how will that work? Because Google lives off selling ads that people see when they search, and now they're not seeing them. Um, and we've already seen some lawsuits against OpenAI and some of the others where, where did you get the information that you're training your models on? Shouldn't you pay for that? Because the model knows what it was trained on. So it's got the knowledge of all the information from the people that contributed that info. I don't know. It's definitely, it'll be very interesting to see. And I guess that's also why Google is investing so much in this, because they have to find out, how do we get to the next level, right? Yeah, I have a Perplexity account as well. It hasn't won me over yet. I'm still, I think I'm better at Googling than it is. Or maybe I'm better at just regular Google and ChatGPT combined. I don't know. Maybe I'll get to Perplexity eventually. So we'll
Yeah.
see. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if you're into Joe Rogan, but the other day he brought a guy who's been doing some stuff, and yeah, it's not that what do you call this in English? I'm not
You're not a conspiracy theorist.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
but I kind of tend to be very curious about these guys and how they think. And this guy, well, because it is biased what Google shows you. Who's Google? They have a business model, or used to, where like the whole search engine they created and so on. But you have to pay to. It's a pay to play as well, right?
Mm.
And when you look at let's say vaccines and all of that, like they're only showing the studies that are sponsored by big pharma. But if you want to learn something that is not sponsored by big pharma, like TV also sponsors big pharma, it's a whole new direction that we're talking about. When you go to Perplexity, or if you take a new route, they show unbiased results, or let's say less biased results. And then you have to make up your mind. And then we go into free speech and all of that discussion, which I find it fascinating. I'm just saying, I find it fascinating. Where do we draw that line? And so that's more like, I have no conclusion to that. And maybe we should just go to the next question, which is from from Fred here. Sorry, yeah. But Fred has a question, which is on just a second, Fred. And Dalia as well, by the way. So Peter, do you believe AI will evolve to become a backbone on everything we do, as internet it is today? Blockchain and Web3 will be enough to secure it. So you kind of answered, but maybe you like to answer it again.
I think I think I'm convinced that AI is, a watershed moment, like cloud computing and iPhones on internet technology, that yes, it's here to stay and it will be everywhere. But what happens from there, I don't know. We've covered um legislation. Should it be limited somehow? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know yet. I'm convinced that it will be a part of everything. How and where it will end, I don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's fair enough. Next question. Peter, I'm not an engineer, but you can trust me. Haha. Pinning the problems that can AI fix is a good start. Health comes to me top of mind, I believe.
Yeah.
Making quality of life better. Jeffrey Hendrick, father of AI, was just on Bloomberg stating he is, I believe she's saying, scared. So now my question is about content. Is it creative? Really? Authentic? Can it replace branding agencies? Your thoughts? I don't think so, but that's my opinion. It's different.
So again, remember that Gen AI currently is like a large statistical analysis engine that is really good at predicting the next word after something that you say. So that's why when you say, make a story about something, it's really good at doing that because it's got a lot of stories in its training. But I don't think, and if you've tried, I use Gen AI a lot to help me get started writing something. So I will give it some background information like articles that I've written, articles I feel inspired by, and then I'll say, okay, so this is like the guardrails within this context. We want to write something, and I want you to move in this direction. And then you have to spend a lot of time making sure that it doesn't start moving outside of those guardrails and then goes, totally whack off the side. So I totally agree with the sentiment. I don't think it's better than marketing agencies or better than humans yet. Will it become? Possibly, but I think what we have to remember is that these large language models are general large language models. They are generalists, so they understand how to predict the next word or the next sentence based on everything that's on the internet. It does not contain specialized, experience, influenced, specific knowledge. So very quickly, if you have a discussion with Gen AI and you then dive into like a particular specific area where you are an expert, you will find that very quickly it runs out of gas. It does not know how to say, and it will start hallucinating. So that's where solutions like RAG, retrieval augmented generation, comes in, because you're feeding the model information that it can draw from when creating the new stuff. But I think the near future will be where we start training models to be experts within certain areas, and certainly health, and certain types of research is where you will see those models being specifically trained, because they will be able to digest a lot of information and help people, go in the right direction quickly. That's going to be fascinating and that's going to be interesting. But I still think, generally speaking, that the large language models lack the ability to do reasoning and math, and we have to break that first, because all scientific research is based on math.
Peter, we are on to 50 something, and I'll do something different this time because we're living different times, and different times requires a different approach. So I am inviting Renee, if she accepts, which I'm not sure if she's available. Gustavo, could you please invite Hawan also? Let's do something different. Let's have them having a conversation here with
Everyone
Peter.
who's here, I don't even know how many. How do I see how many? Who's here? I don't know. I don't understand.
Yeah, we had some people dropping off. We had, I think, 10 in total throughout the
Oh,
session.
okay, cool.
Dalia, she was driving, but she asked questions. Fred was
Oh
going to the
shit!
doctor.
Don't do that.
Yeah, but I think
don't drive and be on the internet at the same time. Please don't do that.
no, she was just listening. She asked the questions
Okay.
before driving. So we have Renee joining in, and then we have also Hawan. And I like to, yeah, this is something we do for members who are here constantly with us. We have to finish this off, so we have maybe 3 minutes, and they will let's have them on stage with you, and let's do something different. Renee, just yeah, perhaps the three of you can do some, ask some final questions to Peter, have a small chit chat about everything that we spoke today, which I thought it was super interesting. We took the conversation into we took another route. So I didn't follow the script at all. Peter, sorry about it.
It's fine. I didn't make the script anyway, so
Yeah,
that's fine.
it's always nicer, always nicer. So perhaps Hawan, Renee, anything that you like to ask? And yeah, you guys are team members, so please, I like to finish this off in a different light today.
Is it? Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I had a quick question. I was wondering, when you think about it from the Carlsberg perspective, when you're evaluating new types of AI technology and AI solutions, what's the process like for that? And because one of the challenges that I hear from a lot of retailers and brands themselves is that AI is becoming a solution now that spans many different departments. It's not like just a marketing decision or just an e-com or just a supply chain, because it's going across all these different divisions. Do you have challenges kind of making these decisions? And I just wonder if you can talk a little bit about your internal processes as it relates to like doing proof of concepts, or how you guys are kind of adapting these new technologies into the business.
It's work in progress. Because we've come to the conclusion so there was a lot of grand thoughts initially about it should be centralized and we should have a center of excellence and everything. It pretty quickly became apparent that no market was willing to wait for a centralized something to be established before they would go ahead and do something. So we've had a bunch of local stuff going on in all the different markets. Some of them, uh, like I mentioned, I touched on earlier, have been eaten up by new functionality of whatever they were looking for. Some of it will be replaced by CRM systems, which are now being enabled with AI as well. So there's no reason to build your own. Um, and now I think we've come full circle back to say, hey, maybe we should think about setting up a center of excellence to take care of some of the more broad-reaching legal ethics kind of discussions that's going on. Um, so we don't have a final answer yet. It's work in progress. There's going to be a suggestion for our board of directors being presented, I think, soon-ish, but I'm not a part of the working group, so I don't know exactly what the timeline is on it. But something will evolve that we as a global company need to have some sort of a stand on it. It's really hard because 25% of our turnover is in China, and what happens in China stays in China.
Yeah.
And a very, very, very large percentage of the rest of that turnover happens in the European time zone, where there is much more focus on being, AI immoral and having AI ethics. There is a very small amount of turnover happening in the Americas, mostly in the US and North America, where I think they are totally not concerned about this whatsoever, from what I hear. So I think it's an interesting question, and I don't know how global companies um, will end up landing
Mm.
on this. It'll be interesting to see whether they end up doing like because I guess you can't be a global company and then have, oh, this is what we think in Asia and this is what we think in Europe, or maybe they just go whatever the local market says, we'll do that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of companies. I do think there's a trend to that kind of center of excellence for AI, but on the flip side of that, a lot of times they don't own the budget, and it's difficult for them to kind of implement it across, different regions, different departments. So the latest thing I keep hearing from people is saying like it almost needs to be a CEO level decision so they can kind of push it down. So I agree with you. Like it's kind of I don't know that anybody has the right answer yet, but it's interesting to see how you guys are adapting to it. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Hawan?
Yeah. One question that was made to you, Peter. Now, the if AI will replace agencies, and I really like your answer, because the Gen AI actually is based in some knowledge and it replicates it, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't create something totally new. And in retail and marketing and everything, the creativity is something that is really part of the business. So do you believe in a future we will have an Gen AI that will actually create something new, or do you believe it will only replicate what already works?
Oh, so I guess that's the $1 million question. Will the AGI, as they call it, the artificial general intelligence, will it be a superhuman? So will it be able to come up with new stuff on its own that's hasn't been thought of or engineered by someone else before? I don't know. And also, what is new? I mean, and what do you mean on its own? Like today, I can create images using Gen AI, DALI, and all the others,
Yeah.
where I can create stupid images of, I don't know, surfboarding polar bears eating McDonald's burgers or something stupid. And then that's never been done before. And we're almost at a state where you can't tell whether it's an actual polar bear actually surfing, actually eating McDonald's burgers. Is that new? I don't know. But I still think we have to crack the code where LLM or Gen AI needs to be able to do reasoning
Yeah.
and solve math before it will do something that's truly new and worthwhile pursuing. In the meantime, we're just doing stupid pictures of polar bears surfing and writing blog posts, which
Yeah.
is cool, but you still need to steer it, right? You still need to provide it direction and input and a starting point. You can't go to Gen AI and then say, "Hey, write a blog post about this." It's just going to go blah, and then it's useless half the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe I've said that before in another session. The intelligence is artificial, but the results might be real. And sometimes if you just say write a blog post, it will throw something that's not good. So it's actually
Mm.
bad. So it's not going to achieve the results that you are expecting. So yeah, let's see how it works.
Yeah, I'm excited
Brilliant.
though.
So are we, I guess. Thank you. Thank you, Hawan. Peter, just Freddy, he's at the doctor, I guess. He asked one book recommendation, if you have one, if you have any, to learn about AI and to learn about what's going on. What would you recommend?
I'm thinking. I'm actually. So I'm. Where the hell is it? I've gone back to buying books, paper books. Where is it?
Maybe you have digital papers or authors or
No. Yeah, no. There's never. Oh God, the book isn't here. It's upstairs. Where the hell is it? Actually, it's not a Gen AI book.
Mhm.
This guy.
Working Back
Do
books.
you guys know it? It's about how it's a business. It's how to do business development by Amazon. How they originally evolved from becoming a bookstore to becoming the biggest internet provider on the planet. And their process called working backwards. But it's more about how do they synthesize some of their ideas and how do they evolve their people and their business processes. I think this is a very insightful book, and I love. I'm taking a lot of inspiration for that in how I do software engineering. Um, all the other stuff, learning Gen AI, don't buy books because as soon as the book arrives on your doorstep, it's out of date. So
Mhm.
try
Yeah.
and keep up. Try and keep up on the internet.
And
There's actually there's a blog post that I put on my website. It's called Amazon the shit out of it, which actually references this book. Let's see if I can find it. I say that a lot. You should Amazon the shit out of something.
but
I mean that in the best possible way.
yeah, We can if you find it, we can share it in the yeah, great. But
In the
I'll
chat.
also share the links to your blog on YouTube, Peter.
Oh,
Yeah. All right, man. So this was super nice as always. Really nice to see you here today, and I'll see you also next week in
yeah,
Lisbon,
man.
right?
We'll see each other for real next week.
Yeah, exactly. Like a real hug and a conversation. So that's good.
Yeah.
Renee is gonna be there as well. So
Oh,
Renee,
cool. Yeah, we can have a coffee and a nata. Looking forward to it. Oh, you're at Berlin. Bring a pack.
bring it.
Bring a pack. A pack of natas. The real
A
ones.
bag, a bag of what?
A pack of pastéis de nata from
Pastéis
Berlin.
de nata. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, sure. I love them. All
Yeah,
right, man.
we can have a taste of. I actually prefer the ones from Mantecaria. I know it's totally offensive and inappropriate to say that, but I think they're better. But anyway, we'll see.
I'm not Portuguese, so you're not offending me at all. All right. Hey man, this was really nice. I hope you enjoyed it. Also, like my last note, think of 3 names that you think would be good names for Evolve. So you can send them our way. Yeah, I'll let you think about it, and we'll speak about it next week. All right.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you all. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.